Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Well, that's what we're going to do in this battle if you consider the devil to be the two enemy destroyers and the pale moonlight to be the artificial sunlight of the Land of Fire map. We are, of course, playing the Tier 7 Premium USS New Jersey, although we've removed the weeb camo and replaced it with something a little bit more realistic in order to avoid having to see the weeb aesthetics before our eyes, which, of course, are an assault on aesthetics. No offense to anybody who likes the weeb camos, I'm just mostly joking. In any case, both of the enemy destroyers are going to be on this alpha flank with us, and we are going to have to engage in a little bit of torpedo avoidance. We spot the Kansas, or rather the CV spots the Kansas for us. It looks like he's AFK or something because he's just sitting there, and so he takes like 25,000 damage from our first salvo. That wakes him up. He decides to start his engines and maybe angle a little bit, and that's going to make dealing follow-up damage a little bit more difficult. We do have JG Marker in front of us as the enemy CV launches some torpedoes. One of them does catch the stern and starts a flood, so we do have to DCP that. But we are not spotted, except by the planes. One of the destroyers has laid a smoke screen, and of course, smoke screens work both ways. So we should be able to go dark as long as the planes are gone, and if we can, that would be ideal. Because at this point, we are kiting away. Obviously, pushing into two enemy destroyers right now would be fairly risky in terms of, losing HP. So we don't necessarily want to do that, but at the same time, we don't want to get so far away from this flank that we can't help Merker. So we were hoping that we'd be able to turn around and turn back in thanks to this smoke screen. But at this point, we've decided to split the difference and instead reverse toward the cap, which is a good thing. If you can set up any ship like this, battleship, cruiser, whatever, you can get all of the guns on target if you reverse stern in. You can get all the guns on target, and then if things get too hot, you're already in the right direction to put some distance between you and the opposition. Kagero coming around the corner over there. Merker is also going around the corner. I was hoping he'd be able to clear it and maybe spot one or both of the enemy DDs in the Kansas, but of course he's running into opposition, so we do want to help him if we can. Kansas, alerted to his presence, decides to turn that way, giving us broadside and allowing us to take an additional 13k off of his HP. We're at 40,000 damage done now. Somehow still spotted. I assume that means the Kagero is in front of us, maybe behind that smoke screen. Most likely, as we go dark when the smoke firing penalty wears off. Merker, he's going to be in need of some assistance. Looks like he's trying to put a little bit of distance between himself and the enemies, but unfortunately, he ends up beaching on the rock over there where he's kind of broadside to the last known location of all the enemy boats, and that's not going to be great, especially if torpedoes come in. However, luckily for Merker, I think these were the Z-39 torpedoes because he does eat one there, but it's not enough to take him out. Had it been the Kagero torpedoes, I think he would be going back to port, but he's still got a little bit of life left in him. Speaking of Kagero, he decides to open up, so we fire back at him in return, of course. The dispersion is not great, and we only manage one over-penetration, which is not a lot of damage. It's at that point Merker takes the opportunity to go forward, and that's, of course, when the Kansas comes around the corner and sinks him. Torpedoes off at the Kansas, though, so maybe he'll take some of those. And speaking of torpedoes, we've got a couple of red danger pylons headed our way. Luckily, there is a New Jersey-sized gap here between this left-hand-most set of torps, so we should be able to go through right now. And ideally, you don't want to find yourself in this kind of position if you're in a battleship, where you're pushing straight into two enemy destroyers as well as another battleship. Generally, pushing into torpedoes is just not where you want to be. It's much better to be sailing away from the source of the torpedoes, because then they're coming at you at a relatively slower speed, and maybe there's a chance that they run out before they ever reach your ship. But of course, we can't turn away right now. If we do, that would involve giving broadside to the Kansas, so we are more or less committed. Luckily, Kagero has decided he is going to commit as well, and he makes an unforced error of getting too close to us. He's already launched his torps, but if you know the direction that the torpedoes are coming from, then you can either turn straight into it and meet the torpedoes bow on, or if you don't have a Kansas threatening your broadside, you can potentially turn away and have the torpedoes come stern on. Either way, much easier to dodge, and by slowing down there, we're able to avoid Z-39's first set of torps, not the second. But of course, the Z-39 torps don't hit all that hard. We take out the Kansas with some help from the friendly aircraft carrier, and that just leaves the Z-39B left on this flank. Enemy team's entire destroyer fleet concentrated over here, and our goal is going to be to take them out. We've got basically no support. The CV is directly behind us, as is another battleship, who really can't do anything over there. The CV is going to be our biggest source of support here. Z-39B decides, for whatever reason, it's time to come out broadside 4 kilometers away. He is obviously going to be launching torpedoes as he smokes up. So we are going to commit to a hard turn to starboard, and we are not going to stop that turn as we gain speed. Oftentimes, if a destroyer is going to do this, then they're going to launch their torpedoes. But if you are accelerating and not accelerating in a straight line, that can often be enough to dodge the torpedoes, just because he's going to put it on the aiming indicator as soon as he launches, and that aiming indicator is not always going to be an accurate representation, especially if you are accelerating forward. Now, we do take another torpedo on the stern, causes a flooding. DCP is off cooldown, though, so we are able to deploy that and stop the flood. Spotted briefly by the Z-39 sonar, but it does have a limited range, and if we sail outside of it, he can no longer see us. So we do want to turn again, this time toward the island. I don't really fancy having to dodge any follow-up sets of torpedoes, so I want to get that way if possible, but at the same time, I don't want to get too far away. The German smoke doesn't last forever. And really, the most important thing we could possibly do in this battle is take this guy out. CV, I think, spots him there, or he is just rather careless about his HP and deciding to scuttle his ship against my guns. Impossible to tell, but he is pushing in, almost certainly so he can launch more torpedoes. We're able to shoot at him. Even the secondaries are opening up, and obviously we're not built for those. Secondaries might actually score a couple hits on him. There we go, 594 damage, not too bad. Got some teammates chiming in. The torpedoes are, of course, on their way, but the the friendly aircraft carrier, rather, picks them up. So they're not going to be any danger to us. He's launched them in the direction we were sailing, so we simply sail in the opposite direction. Hood over there has our broadside, which is something I didn't notice previously. Luckily, the Hood does not seem very concerned about pressing his advantage, so we are able to hit him through the bow, which we can overmatch. Z-39 is still alive, with just a sliver of health left. We do need to finish him off. Our battleship there, he does take a shot, but it misses. Rear turret of justice or rear turret of just miss? Well, it's the latter. The shells miss. Z-39 is still alive. Hopefully our CV can take him out. We want to shoot at the München. I have to take a look at the state of the game at this point. The enemy team does have 2 out of 3 of the capture circles, which is surprising given their entire destroyer fleet was over here. But hey, what do I know? And they also have more ships than we do. It is 5-4 now. We both still have CVs, which is good. And, well, if we can take out this München, we can bring the kills to parity, and hopefully we can push in. At the very least, we know there are no torpedo threats left, although I don't know what the other enemy cruiser is. München has torpedoes, but they don't have long range. Not sure about the other one. In any case, München is playing with his throttle, juking back and forth. He is managing to throw off our aim quite well, but he cannot play that game for eternity, especially if he's going to be flat broadside. Rear turret of justice, round 2. And is justice dispensed? Well, a little bit. One over penetration, not a whole lot of damage. Front guns nearly reloaded as Munchen begins to kite away when the CV drops some torps. Those torps are going to limit his maneuverability, so you would think we would be able to dial this shot in correctly and aim it right in order to take the remaining, I don't know, 6,000 HP from the Munchen, but no. Sometimes the dispersion or our aim is just off, and I don't know which one it was there, but somebody takes out the Munchen, and that just leaves the hood, the enemy carrier, and whatever the remaining enemy cruiser is. We had a battleship in the Bravo cap. He was trying to flip it, and, well, now he is sunk. So what we're going to do is get ourselves into the Alpha cap. We know the hood is over there. We know the cruiser is also on that side of the map as well. It doesn't look like either one of them can actually shoot at us. So it's only the enemy CV we have to deal with. And, well, that would be a problem if the enemy CV wanted to focus us. But I don't think he does. He's bringing his torpedo bombers in, and I guess he is dropping us. I thought maybe he was going to go after the battleship behind me, but I guess not. In any case, we take one torpedo on the bow, but airdrop torpedoes don't do the most damage in the world, especially if you only take one. And there is the final cruiser, the Harbin, who is going to end up being a bit of a thorn in my side before this game is over. Initial shot, not quite lead enough. Harbin escapes with no damage, but Hood looks like he's turned around and is going to come back around this corner with almost no HP left and no armor that really is effective enough to deal with my 16-inch guns. So we're going to wait for the Hood to come around. Hopefully he's broadside. Well, kind of. He's angled, so we aim up to account for that angle. The dispersion is god-awful, but somehow it does manage to take out the Hood. That just leaves the Harbin and the enemy aircraft carrier, and we're in the Alpha cap in the process of flipping it. Now, the enemy team does have a little less than 100 points more than us, so what I was hoping was that I could be able to flip this cap and allow my team to start accruing points from it. But of course, the Harbin is directly in front of us, and if he shoots, he's going to reset us. He's smoking up, too, and he's got the CV coming in, so he's going to be able to benefit from the plane spotting. Plus, we know the Harbin has deep water torpedoes, which are utterly terrifying because we will not spot them until they're right in front of our face, unless the friendly aircraft carrier spots them for us. And he does, which just cements in my mind that I am making the right move by turning to the left and attempting to put the island between myself and the source of the torpedoes. The added benefit of this is that it'll keep the Harbin's guns off of us, which hopefully will allow us to take the cap. There's the CV dropping us, though, so if he gets any hits, he's going to reset us. Although, if that was a drop on us, it completely missed. We don't get reset. We shoot down his plane. 20 seconds left before the cap is ours. Harbin, though, coming forward, broadside to us. And hopefully, this will spell his demise. There he is, perfect broadside. We take precise aim right for his citadel, and of course, we get 5 over penetrations. Broadside technology. Best technology in the game, superior even to German science. And the Harbin gets away with it, but we do have both caps secured. There is nobody in either of the blue caps we now hold, so it's really just Harbin and the enemy aircraft carrier. Now, unfortunately, we're pointed the wrong way. So the question here is, now that we have both of these caps, if we don't die, is that enough to win on points? It's 673 to 738, and there's just over a minute left to go as we dodge the next airdrop torpedo salvo from the CV. This one we might not actually take any damage from. And we've got myself here facing the wrong way. I am going to turn back in as we do take a torpedo. And then we've got the friendly battleship pushing in toward Bravo. I think, in retrospect, as this game winds down, that I probably shouldn't have gone forward as much as I did. Once I initially damaged the Harbin and avoided his first set of torps, I probably should have stayed where I was and tried to reverse into position to shoot him because, well, I didn't know at the time when the game was running down here, but it turns out just over a minute is not quite enough to make up the points difference. I think we're going to come within 20 points of these guys, and the Iowa is going to avoid getting sunk by the Harbin's torpedoes, which would have guaranteed him the win. But yeah, just not quite enough time left in this game to secure the win. Hindsight is 2020, though. Should have tried to more aggressively sink the Harbin, but we didn't, so we lose. Although I'm not going to complain about it, because this was at least a competitive, close game that wasn't decided until the final couple minutes. And that's about all you can ask for in World of Warships Legends. That's why I play the game anyway, to get games like that. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.